Hey guys, how's it going? It's Mr. Louis. I'm going to talk about how you guys are supposed to do assignment 3.1.2a, pick and place routine. So as you guys recall, we were talking about how automation affects, the industry currently. And when we say industry, we mean the manufacturing industry, right? So for this assignment, I'm going to step through it and then you guys can just follow along. But what you're going to turn in for a grade are going to be one, a screenshot of your robotic screen, two, conclusion question number one, and three, conclusion question number two. So if you click this link here, it should bring you guys to the Project Lead the Way website, and it's going to be the pick and place routine. So what they talk about here is they want you to think about, have you ever tried to go someplace but you didn't know how to get there? Well, you probably had to ask for directions or look at a map. And the importance of directions for a human navigating one place to another is kind of similar to how a robot needs to figure out how to move from one point to another. All right. The software that we're going to use is called RoboCell, and you should have that installed on your Butler Tech computers. And then as far as your resources go, they have a bunch of different things here. The main thing that I want you guys to look at, though, is going to be this RoboCell and cell setup presentation. In there, there's a lot of information, and it's a very long presentation. Like I said, 75 or so slides, but it kind of tells you all the instructions and where everything is as far as this RoboCell and cell setup software goes. So under the procedure, you can see here that they talk about how you should look and review at this presentation. So you can click this link here if you want to go review it. Otherwise, you can go move on to step one. So step one talks about using cell setup. So cell setup is just a software that is built into RoboCell. So if I type in either cell setup, you can see that pops up here. Or if you are somebody who just likes to navigate it manually, you can go to your start menu, scroll down to the R's, and under R, you should see RoboCell 2020. And then in RoboCell 2020 folder, you'll see the two softwares that we're going to use, Cell Setup 2020 and RoboCell 2020. First, we're going to open up Cell Setup 2020. So when you open it up, it should end up having a screen, and I had this open from before, but it should have a screen that looks like this. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel this. And then what you're going to do is either hit this blue page that says new, or you can do file new. Either way, it's going to open up a new file for you. And so let's try to do 50-50 on my screens here. Perfect. So you can see here that it's asking us to add a robot with no slide base. So in order for us to do that, go over to RoboCell, or excuse me, Cell Setup, and double or click robots twice. And you'll notice that there's only one robot that's shown here, so that's the one we're obviously going to choose. So you double click this, it's going to open up another window that says Robot 1, and then it's listing its properties. So again, the instructions told us to do something with no slide base. So that's a default right here. But if you wanted a robot that can actually slide side to side and kind of move on its own, then you would want to add a slide base here. But for now, we're going to do a no slide base robot and hit OK. So when you do that, you'll notice that a robot pops up here. If you hold down your right click button and go up and down, that's how you zoom in and out with the software. And if you scroll up and down on the right side or use your scroll wheel, that's how you can kind of tilt it. So it's kind of a weird way to navigate this particular program, but that's how you can do this. So I'm going to talk about these buttons real quick. So obviously this is how you open a new file. This is how you open it. A file that you've already saved. This is how you save it. There's two things here called controller setup. You have your new objects. Show names is how you can label your robots and other things that you bring into this program. X, Y, Z. This button here, show positions. It actually changes that to show where your object is located. This is how you would delete it. So if I want to delete my robot, I could click this button, and then it's asking me to click my robot again and ask if I want to delete my robot. This button right here. There we go. This button right here is how you click and drag things. So it doesn't let you move your robot, but if I say I added a table, that's the next thing they ask us to add. So you're going to want to change the table to 1000 by 1000. And then again, you don't have to change the color, but I like to change the color of my table just so it's easier to see. So I'm changing it to green and hit OK. So next you see my icon change to that block with an arrow down on it. So I'm just going to click right below our robot and it'll place my table. So again, if you use this drag object button and click the table and click and hold, you can actually drag it around to get it closer. But the best way to actually position your table, guys, is to double click an object. When you double click the table or you double click your robot, it asks you if you want to rotate it, do you want to change its position. I can actually show the work envelope on my robot, so that's nice. So for the table though, if I double click it, I'm going to hit position and I'm going to change its position just to 0, 0, right? So the center of my table will be exactly where the center of my robot is. And you can see now it's all centered on that table. So then the last thing it asks us to do is add a 40 by 40 by 40 cube here. So that's over here on the left hand side. We're adding a 40, 40, 40 cube at position 400, 0. So the cubes are actually located under materials. So if I double click cube, you can see that by default it's at 40 by 40 by 40. And we'll just leave it at the color red. So if we hit OK, again, you're going to kind of place it on this table. So click the table and hit OK. Then you should be able to toggle on and off your positions. So we can see right now my cube is at 422.3 and 35.4. So if I turn that off, double click my cube and hit position, I should be able to change this to 400 in the X direction like they asked me to, and 0 in the Y, and hit OK. There we go. So now my cube should be at 400 and 0. So now we are done with step 1 here. So next thing they tell you to do is save the graphics file. So I would say hit File, Save As. And then what I want you guys to get used to is actually saving in your OneDrive, right? So saving a folder in your OneDrive, if we haven't already set it up, then you would just go up here to New Folder, type in CIM, but you'll see I already have a folder named CIM, so it won't let me do this. So I'm just going to hit No and go to my CIM folder, okay? Once I go to my CIM folder, you'll see I made a folder for this particular activity, 3.1.2a, pick and place. So I'm going to click that folder. And then there's other files here. I want you guys to name it your last name, your first initial, and then cell setup, okay? So mine happens to be Louis S _ cell setup. So hit save. So that way I know exactly where that file is. So once you do that, you can exit the cell setup program by hitting the X button. And then step 4 just kind of talks about all the details as far as actually programming this. So if we look at step 4 here, we can see that what we're trying to do here is we're going to have the robot pick up our cube. We're going to lift it straight up in the air a short distance. We're going to move the arm straight back towards the base a short distance, place the cube back on the table, then release the cube and return to our previous position before moving back to what they call a home position. And by doing this, this is what is called a pick and place routine. So first, let's talk about the position. So position 1 is going to be the position where the gripper starts, right? It's going to be the initial position where your cube is currently at. So we look at this image here, that's position 1 right here. Position 11 is right above position 1, and this position is going to be some distance just straight up. The reason why you're going to lift it straight up is usually so that way if there's another cube on the table or there's another object, it's what they call a safe move. So this position should allow you to move your cube up without having to worry about hitting anything else on your table. Obviously, that doesn't really necessarily matter in this case because we only have one cube and that's it. But you'll notice they suggest approximately 3 times the height of the cube. So what is 3 times the height of the cube, guys? Well, 3 times the height of the cube is going to be what our cube size was, which was 40 millimeters, right, times 3. So that's going to be 120 millimeters roughly. But you'll notice that when we talk about how we actually set this pick and place routine, it'll be a little bit different than that. Position 2 is going to be the final position of the cube. So that's actually where they showed the cube in this example drawing. Position 12 is going to be basically position 11, but only 3 times the height above position 2, right? So that's their naming convention, is that they added 10 to their initial positions. And then again, position 99 is going to be what they call your home position. So you can just call your home position basically where your robot starts off at, and we can name that 99, or you can put it somewhere else, depending on what your situation is. But basically, a home position is where your robot's going to be at rest, right? It's going to be where it, in theory, just kind of sleeps when it's not doing anything. And then they recommend that for positions 1, 11, 2, and 12, that your gripper orientation should be as close to 90% to the table as possible. Okay? So we'll kind of go through all of that. So now step C is where you actually set up the program. So we talked about this a little bit in class, but I just want to reiterate a little bit that we're going to follow these step by step. So I'm going to split this 50-50 after we open up RoboCell this time. So again, you can either type in RoboCell and find RoboCell 2020, or you can scroll down and find it. So when I open up RoboCell 2020, and just give me a second, it's obviously waiting here, this is what it's going to look like. So the first thing I'm going to do is split this 50-50 again so we can see the instructions, and we're going to make a new file. So you're going to look for that blue page, or you can do File New Project. Either one's fine. The next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to go to Options and make sure 1, Simulation is checked, and then 2, you're going to change your options to Pro. So with Pro being selected, you're going to notice that there are going to be a lot more commands here on the right side that you're able to use. Now, if I go back to level 1 and I try to expand these, I am unable, or I don't have as many options. I only have 12 total options. So that's why you want to be on Pro, so that way there's plenty of options for you to choose from when you're programming this robot. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is import this 3D graphics file, okay? So in order to do that, a lot of you guys wanted to do file open. Well, cell setup is not the same file type as RoboCell, okay? So what you do instead of doing file open is you're going to go down here to file import. So you're going to import a 3D object. So again, I called mine Louis S _ cell setup, but you may have to navigate through to your OneDrive or wherever you saved it. So hopefully you made in your OneDrive folder a CIM folder, and then you made a pick and place folder. So that way you know exactly where it is and what activity it belonged to. But in this case, I know mine's here. I'm going to hit open, and then you'll see that a screen will open up with our original robot, table, and block. So if I hit my block here, it's not going to let me do it right now. But basically now, this is all we need to actually program it. So the first thing they want us to do is add remarks to our program. So I'm going to move stuff around a little bit, and actually I'm going to probably actually just do this full screen now. There we go. So what I'm going to do here, guys, is make this a little smaller. That way we can see all the commands, but we can still see our 3D image. And I recommend you guys do the same, because sometimes with this program, windows will get lost and it'll be harder for you to find later. So anyway, the first thing they want us to do is a remark. Remarks are under program flow. So we go down here to RE. You can either double click it and it's going to make a remark. So this is a remark, and if I OK, you'll notice that it pops up under our program screen. So you'll notice there's a bunch of different screens, right? So this is where your program is actually going to be made for what your robot does. This is going to be how you tell what type of movement you're going to do, and this is what they call teaching positions. And that's going to be how you move your robot and tell it where is position 1, where is position 11, where is position 2, where is position 12, and where is position 99. The other thing that you can do, obviously, is you see these 2-letter codes. Basically, if I want to do a remark, I can actually type RE, and it will actually open up remark as well. So it's just a shortcut. So if I want to do a ring bell, I could do RB in my keyboard. And now you can see it says ring bell on the left-hand side. So if I keep typing RB, it's going to keep adding these ring bells. But obviously, I don't want those, so I'm just going to cut those out. Okay. So again, we're going to do the remarks, and if we look back at our instructions, we'll see that the first remark was going to be this activity number. So I'm actually just going to copy and paste it. Hit OK. The second remark was going to be our name, period, and then date. All right. So name, period, date. So remark, name. It's kind of lagging on me. Give me a second. There we go. Name. It's Louis. Remark, period, 2, and remark, date. And today is the 5th of April for us. There you go. So now we have our activity number, our name, our period, and our date. So if we look back at our instructions now, we are done with step C4. So now C5 says that in the manual movement section, we want to switch our joints to be the XYZ mode. Well, our manual movement section should be at the bottom of your screen, and it should be on joints right now, and we're going to change it to XYZ. All right. Then the next step is going to be recording the 5 required positions. So the easiest way I found to do this, guys, is actually one, you want to hit this expand. What happens is this menu right now is it's simplified. That's why it says simple. But if you hit expand, it becomes a little bit, it gives you more options basically. So right now, if I hit get position, first thing you need to do is set your different positions. So we had position 1, and I'm going to hit record here. So this robot here says record position. And then when I hit this drop down, we should see that there's a position saved at called position 1. So then I'm going to record position 2, and now there should be 1 and 2. Record position 11. There should be 1, 11, and 2. Record position 12. Should be 1, 11, 12, and 2. And then position, and then position 99, right? And just hit record. So again, my robot's at a position that I would consider a home position. But unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, what we're going to do is hit get position right now on 99. So when we hit get position, this is actually telling us our X, Y, and Z location of our robot. And then the pitch is going to be kind of based on your gripping arm. And then you have a roll number. So the next thing we're going to do is actually change these positions. So for position 1, it said that position 1 is going to be where our block starts here, okay? So I'm going to teach you guys how to use these 3 buttons here. Send robot to object, send robot to point, and send robot above point. These 3 objects are going to be, or these 3 items are going to be the main ways that we're going to move our robot around initially. The other thing that you need to know is how to open and close your gripper. So that's going to be under manual movement here on the bottom left. You can see this one right here that looks like a crane on the green ball is closed gripper, and this one's open gripper. So if I were to turn my robot around here, and let me try to move it and center it a little bit more. There you go. So you can see that right now that gripper is closed. So we want to make sure that's open first. And the reason why, guys, and let me just show you, is if it's closed and we use this send robot to object button, I'm going to tell it send robot to object, so this one right here, where it has the closed gripper with a green ball and an arrow pointing at it. And I'm going to, you see that my cursor turns into like a little gripper with an arrow. So I'm going to tell it to go to this cube by left clicking on it. And then now it tells you the position error, the motion is too great, or an impact has occurred. So obviously, guys, the impact occurred because my gripper was not open. I just pierced that cube. So I hit OK. It's going to reset itself. And now I'm going to go back to my bottom left and make sure that my gripper is open first. Once your gripper is opened, and let me see if it will rotate for me here. There you go. You can see that the gripper is now open. And so all you have to do is just repeat that process before. Go to send robot to object and click it. And as long as you have the cursor changed to a gripper with an arrow on it, now you should be able to click the block. So now you see you don't get the error because your gripper did not collide with that block this time because it's open. So now what we're going to do is hit record position again, because this is going to be our true position for where we want position 1 to be, okay? So if you hit this little button here, down here, record position, and hit get position, you should see that that number should be very, very close to 400, right? Because before in self setup, you set it to 400. And then our Z values at 10 inches, or excuse me, 10 millimeters. And then our pitch is at 89.96. So it says make the pitch as close to 90 as possible. So if you wanted to refine these numbers, you can actually type in -90. Then you click this button here. So this button tells it to move to a particular position based on this. So I'm going to move it to that position. I'm going to record that position, and I'm going to hit get position. Oh, it didn't work. Sorry. So I made it. I'm going to hit move position, teach position, and then record position again. So now it should work. Well, for whatever reason, guys, it's not working as much as I want it to, but I think this program has been kind of finicky with moving just slight amounts like that. So since we're only moving 0.04 degrees, it's actually pretty much where we want it to be. So with that being said, we are going to now move to position 2. So 11. So the position 11, just to remind you guys, is the position that's going to be right above our block. So position 11, we'll change this position number to 11, and we hit get position. You should see that that position is actually going to be further away from where we were. So if I hit this go to position in a straight line, it should move our robot back to wherever we recorded the position 11 at, which was at our home position, right? All the way up here. So that's fine, but I'm actually going to tell it to go back to 1. So if you change your position number to 1 and then click this straight arrow again, go to the position for a straight line, this will show you where you put position 1. Okay, so that's fine. So the next thing I'm going to do actually is I'm going to use this option right here, send robot above a point. So I want it to be above this block, right? So I'm going to click it, and you'll see that this robot now is above that block. So that's basically where your position 11 is going to be. And if you remember, they told us to try to make it about 3 times as high as position 1 right here. So position 11 should be directly above 1, and the vertical distance should be about 3 times the height of the cube. So again, what is 3 times the height of the cube, guys? If it was 40 millimeters, well, 3 times 4 is 120 millimeters, right? So what we will do now is hit get position, and this is where our position is currently. Or sorry, that's the position of where that cube is. All right. So where we are now, we will change these numbers to be where we want it to be. In this case, I'm going to change Z from 504 to be, or sorry, that's what we need to do first. We have to hit record position, all right? So we hit record position, it's going to save position 11 as where our robot currently is, okay? So now we hit get position. It should tell us roughly where it is. And surprisingly, it's at 140 in Z, right? Z is up and down. And before, our gripper was at 10. So we wanted it to be 3 times, right? That was 3 times 140. That'd be 120 millimeters. But since we started at 10, I would actually say that we want to be around 130 millimeters to be 3 times as high. So we hit teach, move there, teach, and record. Hopefully it stays at 130. See that? So that's how you have to change it. So again, 130. Our X can be basically around 400, but it doesn't necessarily have to be exactly that number. But what we really want to concentrate on is that Z value, all right? So that's how you do position 11. So then position 12, well, that's just going to be moving in this left to right direction, right? Moving back to the base of your robot. So position 12, in theory, should keep the same Z number, but your X number should be reduced. I think before I just changed position 12 to be 200. So I'm going to hit teach again. I'm going to move it. I'm going to hit teach again. And then I'm going to record. So when you do all of that, you should be able to get your next position right here, position 12. So if I go back to position 11 and try to move it, it should go right above the cube. And if I go back and click position 12 here and hit this straight arrow again and move it, it should go back to what is now our new position 12. So the last number that we have to go down to, guys, is changing the Z-axis, right? We need to change it from going up here down to where the block was. So basically, this number is going to be the exact same number as number 1. So what I'm going to do is just type in 10, because I believe it's around 10. Hit teach. Oops, don't do that one. 12. Hopefully I didn't mess it up. So I gotta go 2, hit teach, then go down, hit teach again, and hit record. So now if I go back to 12, hopefully since I didn't hit record, it will still be the right position. It does not look like it is, so I'll have to reteach 12. So I'm going to go back to 130, hit teach, above, move it up, hit teach again, and hit record. Okay, so now if I go back to between 12 and 2, I should be able to set this down, and I should be able to pick this back up. There you go. All right. So then the last thing is, like I said, 99. If I click the straight arrow, it should be some home position, so it's going to get out of the way. So you can see that it goes all the way back to where it rests or where it's sleeping. So now we should have all of our positions. So now what does it want us to do? Well, after we have all of our positions recorded here in step 6, it wants us to write the program as described in step A. So step A again is pick up the cube, lift it straight up in the air a short distance, move the arm straight back toward the base a short distance, and place the cube back on the table. You're going to release the cube and return to the previous position and then move to a home position. So this is what they call pick and place routine, right? So again, we have all of our marks. So the next thing that we want to do, guys, is you want to think about what does your robot need to do initially. Do you want your robot clamp to be open? Do you want it to be closed initially? In this case, it's okay to have the robot open when you're traveling. So I'm going to hit open gripper and add it to the beginning of my program, okay? So then the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to have my robot move to position 11, right? So we look at this diagram, we want it to move from 99 to 11, from 11 to 1, from 1 to 11, from 11 back to 12, from 12 to 2, from 2 to 12, and then from 12 back to 99. That's the positions that they want us to move. So if you go up here to go to position speed, GP, it could be the shortcut, and double click it. There'll be a go to position, and it asks you what position you want to go to. So again, we're going to go to 11 first. And we'll go fast because we're not trying to pick up this block yet. We're going to go as fast as we can to position 11. So 11 is going to be right above the block, right? So we already have our gripper open. We're right above the block. So the next thing we're going to do is go to position 1. And we'll go 50%, make it a little slower, so that way if there was anything that might run into it, we won't have to necessarily crash. So then we're going to go to position 1. And so let's, just out of curiosity, go back to remark, highlight that, and go run single cycle, and we'll see where it goes. You can see that it opened the gripper, it moved to position 11 here, and then it goes down to position 1. So we now have our robot in position, but what we have to do next? Yep, you got it. We need to close our gripper to make sure it actually grips the block. So you double click close gripper, add that, and then we're going to go back to position 11. So in this case, we're carrying a block. We're actually going to want to go slower usually, or if you're carrying anything, because you're not necessarily going to go 100% all the time. So we'll go to 50%, carry your block up, and then we will move to our next position, which will be position 12, right? And again, we're going to keep at 50%. And then we're going to go back from 12 to 2, 50%. And then we're going to lay the block down, which means we have to open our gripper, right, to release it. And we'll go back to position 12. And then finally, we end up at position 99. So remember, after we go up back to position 12, we're going to retract and go back to its home position. And this is when you can go fast. So if we reset this, so you go back to position number 99 and hit this straight arrow, that's how you can reset this robot before you run it again. And then do run. And then single cycle. It should run through all of our programs. So first it opened the gripper, gives a position 11, gives a position 1, now closes the gripper, goes back to 11, goes to 12, comes back down and sets it down at 2, opens the gripper, goes back to 12, and then goes all the way back up to its home position of 99. And that's how you guys do a pick and place routine. Thank you for listening, guys. And obviously you want to save your project. So again, I would do my last name, first initial, and I would probably just call it pick and place routine or something like that. But you should always make sure you're naming your stuff something that makes sense to you and will make sense to me when I look at your files. That way it's easier to find it again. So again, I saved it all here under my OneDrive so that way I can access it no matter what computer I'm at. All right, guys, thanks for listening. Have a good one.